but we might. I think I'll kick off the poll anyway. Let me see here. This one's. I've got several questions. I was figuring there are some new people. The first ones are just millionaire studies. So it's just quick looking at them, and then some more about your personal financial um, savings. Okay. But hopefully you guys find these educational and valuable. And can I get a thumbs up from everybody that you agree that can post these for free download, but for others? Okay, excellent. Thank you. And these millionaire studies are based on over 10,000 people they studied, along with both in the Millionaire Next Door and then the Ramsey did this huge millionaire study quite a while back. So, and they're consistent across the board over the years. First question, this is what percentage of Americans could cover $1,000 emergency? It's actually 40% is, and that's consistent. It's 39 to 40. I think this year it's 41%. That could actually cover without going into with either using cash, savings, a credit card that they pay off at the end of the month. 60% of the population cannot. It's really sad. Next one, and let's see, a number of people said less than 10%, and then 10 to 30%. So most people realize it's fairly poor, unfortunately. The next one, what percent of millionaires are in the US are first generation self-made? And by inheritance, actually, it's less than 10K, which is nothing, relatively speaking. But the actual answer is 80%. And that shocked me that's why I always ask this, because heck, where I grew up, my parents, it was like you had to come from money to become wealthy, and that's a complete lie. 80% of millionaires are self-made, and that goes back 100 years, and it's consistent. And I think, to me, it makes sense, actually, when you think about it. People that come from more modest means value the dollar better, and so they end up building wealth better, actually. Next one, question 3, actually was 89K, and that was a while back, but it's still not. 89K is the median. That means over half of the people got their first million on less than an 89K household salary. So it's pretty amazing. It just shows what saving and investing does, and being not spending less than you make and investing. So, okay, how long does it take? Actually, on average, it takes 28 years. Is what's it takes to become a millionaire. That might change over the years as salaries come up, and maybe $1 million isn't what it was. I mean, still a lot, but I think that'll change as salaries keep raising and inflation. And then the average age, based on that, when you think about it, people then finish college about 21, 22, add 28, 49 is the average age when people become millionaires by net worth. What percent graduated from high school? It's actually 90%. Sorry, graduated from college. It's actually 90%. So and I know salaries tend to be always better, and salaries go up higher for people that have a college education. And still, even though there's a question of return on investment, the cost of school, it's still it's still, they just make more money consistently. What percent of millionaires attended prestigious colleges? Yeah, it's actually 10%. So it's not important. It's actually 8% is the actual number. So it's going to a super expensive college is not what's the way to build wealth. And actually, what percent attended public schools? It's actually 60%. Is 62% attended. So I mean, the best. When I think about it, they're probably not going into college debt. Hey, Emily.
Hello.
Hey, can hear you. I don't think you saw the poll. I think you just came on, but we're just going through it right now. Okay, next
Okay,
one.
sounds good.
What percent of millionaires said single stock investing? that's correct. Most people got that less than 1%. It's not a single stock. Granted, business owners, Amazon, things like that. Yes, Microsoft, that's how they got their wealth. But people, those that didn't have their own company and blow up like that, has nothing to do with an individual stock. So stock picking is not the way to go. Do you contribute at least enough to get the full max of your 401k? Good. Everybody either maxes out the 401k or gets the max match. I know some military that weren't BRS, there was no match, but let's see. Oh, if you don't max, do you set up auto increase? That's kind of split. So a third does, a third doesn't, and some people don't know how to do it. When you go into your contributions, like depending on, for those that buy us at your contributions page, you can adjust the percentage, and there's like a box to check, like auto increase, and you can adjust the percentage there. But that's an important thing to know, and a good way to keep moving up to that max. Let's see, next one. Okay, have you increased your investments in 2025? Good. 5 out of 7 have. Do you have an IRA? Good. Most people have both as well, and I think that's important because as your salary goes up, you likely cannot contribute directly to a Roth IRA, which is my favorite, but you can do a backdoor Roth. And then do you max fund your IRA annually? Most do, and one says, I don't know. That's something important to know and take a look, because you have until April 15th to max 2024 contributions, which were 7,000. If you turn 50 that year, you get another $1,000 catch up you can contribute. So you've got another month to contribute that money for 20. Make sure you select though 2024 when you go and do that. Okay, let's see. And okay, let's see, the 401k, good. People did Roth and a combination. I think a lot of people do combination. If you're military, you should be doing maxing out all Roth, I'd say, just because you're never going to be in that low of a tax bracket again. And then do you track your net worth? Okay, yes, some good. Some people annually, every 6 months. I do it actually quarterly. Monthly, I think, is a bit excessive. To me, that you don't, unless you just like playing with the Excel and stuff like that. But quarterly or annually is what I've usually seen people do. But it's really, I think, valuable, because even if it's a forcing function almost. You see your net worth growing, it makes you want to save and invest even more. So it's really valuable to see, I think, to track. And then, do you have umbrella insurance? And I ask this because this is about net worth. A third do, half do not, and one doesn't know what. So the 66% don't know what umbrella insurance is. So this is personal PLUP, personal liability umbrella insurance policy, and it's something that is so essential to protect yourself for. It's basically additional liability for your homeowners or renters insurance and auto insurance. So if you get those minimums, like coverage for your auto and homeowners insurance for injuries, are like so small. And so if somebody slips and falls at your house and sues you, or you gets in a car accident, your fault, you quickly go through those minimums, and then they'll come and sue you. Umbrella insurance for like $100 per $120 per $1 million of coverage keeps you from getting losing your net worth. So something everybody should get. Just if you're with USA, whoever your insurance provider is, just get it. Get it for the total of your net worth. That way nobody can take anything that's yours. Any questions there? Okay, good. Okay, quick look through the agenda and keep moving. But some of these are still from 2023. They haven't updated all the numbers, but they have income through 2024. And then we'll go over, kind of what your net worth should be, based on some formulas that I like from like the Millionaire Next Door. I think they've got a good thing. And then, just talking about, hey, what if we're ahead or behind? What's next? Okay, I put this because Fidelity's most recent one didn't provide median balance, which to me is the most important. Average is totally skewed because of the top 1%, and you can look at the difference here between these. age 20 to 29, the average is almost 3 times what the median is. The median's the middle number, and so when you're talking about money and home prices and all that kind of stuff, the median, which is the middle number, is the best because they get skewed by these outliers on the that go from 0 to infinite. It pushes the average far to the right. Make sense? Um, but this was good, I thought, relatively speaking. 14.1%. That includes employer match, um, but but these numbers. I mean, is that enough? Look at these people. Even the averages. 212. 212K for 50 to 59. 272. Is that going to provide the retirement you want? Scary. Okay, this is the updated Fidelity numbers. Like I said, but if you look at them, they're really even. If you look, what I did like is they broke them down by 5-year averages, which is much better than a 10-year. Because that's crazy. A decade, how much difference should you have from 31 to 40 or something like that? But it's still pretty. It's basically the same if you look at it. If you average these 5-year averages, um, but it's just not enough. So, and here I just kind of broke it down so you guys can see what the difference is between, for different age groups. And I just put the median and the average 401ks here. And if I'm going too fast through these, let me know. But I figured a lot of this is just kind of visual and getting a feel for the numbers. This is income. So, and this is average individual income. And I put this, this shows the median, is the far left orange one, the average, and then I highlighted the top 1%, which is you see that it totally skews that average as well. But it'd be nice to be a 25-year-old at 201K. Okay, and here's when I do these were sorry. I have 2023, and then the next slide's 2024 numbers. But I highlight as well. I put the median at the top, but then 90 percentile, because I'm hoping, I think the 99%, that's just outliers. But the goal is, I think, to everybody, to get to the top 10% if possible. So I highlight those numbers throughout. Okay, and you see a quick look at the 90%. You see the incomes are going up noticeably in 2020. Not the median, but the 90 percentile has definitely risen up some. And then I'll show you the different states in terms of order as well. This is in order of highest median income. The top 1% you'll see is a little bit different. Like look at Connecticut down there, 11th in median, but the highest top 1%. What the heck does Connecticut do? But I was kind of surprised California is that they're actually, it's not even in the top, that page. It's actually number 15 as far as median. Pretty high on the top 1%, not surprising, but the number 15 in median income. And then I've got the rest of them, but I just figured I'd show the top, these top ones. I don't know. I'm going to quickly skip through this. This just goes in order, but you'll see, I think Mississippi is always the lowest, roughly, yeah, median 55K. Okay. Okay, so what is net worth? Anybody want to share? Everybody said they calculated, so.
Total assets plus whatever your liabilities are.
Exactly, your assets minus your liabilities, and so there's different trackers that can do this, but a lot of times, why I bring this up is in the middle, that's a balance sheet that provides your net worth. You see the assets, cash, investment. This is just a sample one, and then subtract out what you owe, all your liabilities, and that's your net worth. The income statement on the right, that's just your cash flow in and out, and that doesn't. Sadly, there's people who make a ton of money, but they have no net worth because they spend it all. So, I mean, what's more important, being income statement rich or balance statement rich?
Definitely
Agreed. Balance. I mean, it's good to be both, I guess, um, but balance statement, rich, is key. I was at a conference and I was hearing about these people that I couldn't believe the amount of money they were making, and they still had huge credit card debt and were not saving even in their 401k. It was I just and they had financial. It was a financial advisor telling me about it. And they're their clients. I was just really surprised. Like, you haven't been able to get them to save in a couple of years working with them. Wow. Um, okay. This is as far as tracking your net worth. This is what if you look at Schwab, and they've got a good tracker. There's a link to it right there. Um, here's the things that to list it in terms of your assets. The and then obviously liabilities that things that you owe. I don't put some of these things on my net worth tracker. The like a lot of people include their car. I don't really care. I mean, that's a depreciating asset but it would be good to, I guess, see how the value of your car is changing over time. um, and then how do you guys track your net worth or sorry, the value of your home? Do you go with the market price like Zillow or Redfin or something like that, or do you use your purchase price? And there's no right or wrong on this. I'm just curious. Not sure what I. Hey Garrett, sorry, we kind of moving along, but it's
No,
a
it's my
record as well.
it's my bad. I thought this was at
Yeah.
one my time, so I'm
Okay.
very, very sorry.
I was just asking. We are talking about so we went back to last one, like what Schwab says about your definition of net worth, assets minus liabilities, balance sheet versus income statement, and then what Schwab says. Hey, here's a sample of things you should look at for your assets, liabilities, and have a good tracker. And then but I say, so how much? I don't personally include my car in it because I don't. It's
Yeah.
I drive it till it's done. And so I don't care. That's such an insignificant thing, and it's a depreciating asset. Like I said, it maybe it's good to track for people. Most probably like it, and they can see how it changes over time. But what value of your home do you guys use if you own a home? Do you use the purchase price, or do you use the current market value for like you see in Zillow and Redfin or whatever? Anyone? Bueller? Okay, I personally use the purchase price and any money we've put into to renovate it, because I don't want to see some. And I do check the market value though for my umbrella insurance, but I don't, just because I own a home and I see these ridiculous prices, and variance, I don't want that to skew what I'm doing myself for my own retirement. Meaning all the savings and investing I'm doing in my 401k, IRAs, brokerage account, that kind of stuff. Which that's really what I see at the bottom is your financial freedom assets, vice your net worth. What you have liquidity. Sure, you could do down the road. You could do, a reverse mortgage if you needed to, or different things with the home. But I like to see I want to see what I'm doing, not what maybe the market thinks they're doing with the home. That's really improving my net worth. But I do calculate the market value just to use that for umbrella insurance to make sure I'm covered. What
Hey,
percent of?
Alan,
Yep.
question on the car.
Yeah.
Uh, so if you have the title to your car, like meaning it's paid off,
Yep.
and it still has, I guess, a blue book value, well, would you not
You
include
you
that?
you can. I just don't. Like, yes, because that really is an asset of yours. It's really a value. So yes, you should. And but every time you got to go back and check Blue Book to see how it's changed over time. You know.
Yeah,
So which would be interesting. Actually, the best thing would be to, if you bought a new car and then look at it. You know. uh, uh, After you bought, you purchased it, and then the next month when it's dropped like 25-30%. What percent of net worth is the average for people, that what their home is? What percentage of their net worth is that? You guys know? or guess? 50%. It's actually even more than that. It's Tim, 30%, and especially Tim, where we're at, like the coastal places, it's even worse because houses are so damn expensive. It's more closer to 70%, which is crazy, you know. And I remember seeing it. People in the military too that would buy, they'd spend over 50% of their money on a home, and they had nothing else in savings. And you know, like I don't know, personally, I think, as Tim, you said 30%. That's what I'd say. 25 to 40% makes much more sense if you can do that. But you know, when all your net worth's in your home, it's scary.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think about bi-weekly payments on your mortgage?
It depends on your interest rate. Like that's a longer discussion. So yes, what that does is cut down how much you pay on total interest. What's kind of annoying though is most mortgage companies, they don't put it that till principal until the end of the month with those payments. And so you're paying with that, you're paying 13, basically you're paying an additional payment a year with bi-weekly. Personally, it depends on your interest rate. If you refinanced during COVID and have a, you know, cheap rate, which will probably never should go back to, I wouldn't do it. I would open up a separate brokerage account and bet. I would invest that money and bet against, say, even you could just even take the total U.S. stock market versus say a 2.5% or something rate, and just load that money in, because as all the money that you put into your house to the extra principal, it's gone, and the bank will take your home away until it's completely paid off. But that's gone. Whereas if you invest it and have a separate account, and that additional that you want to pay towards principal, you just keep investing it. Down the road, you could cash that out and pay off your home if you're like, I'm done. You know, like I understand the importance of wanting to get out of debt, but you know, I'll bet U.S. stock market against one of these 3% or lower, you know, interest rates. It's to me, does that make sense, Dustin?
Yeah, I guess.
And I would I mean, it's an additional way to pay it down that takes off 4 to 7 years off your payment. But I just think there's a better way to do it with our low interest rate environment. If it's a higher interest rate, yeah, I think it's a much better idea. But I would probably pay it straight up to principal instead of doing the biweekly, because the mortgage companies, they don't apply it to principal right away. Okay. Yeah, like I said, here's what I include in my net worth tracker, and I have that available for free download if you guys are interested on the website. But I break it down by tax-free, tax-deferred, and after-tax assets, along with and real estate. Like I said, I use the purchase price and then additions like renovations done, which really, renovations, by the way, it's about 70% typically, and it depends on, you know, what you're remodeling, how much value that really adds. But 70% of the money you put in is kind of a good figure to guesstimate of how much actual additional value you're adding to your home. Does that make sense? Okay. Like I said, the other thing is jewelry. I always say, and you should, like, he'll have a lot. You should use it, but I kind of think of like, are you really going to sell that? I mean,
Yeah, I think about my wife's wedding ring. I'm like, if we sell that, we are beyond. Like at that point, it might be robbing people at gunpoint. You know, we have no idea how bad it is.
Exactly. So, and usually those jewelry's passed down, you know what I mean, into generations as well. So, you know, like, exactly, Garrett. Like, if you're at that point, this life is not, we're in worse shape than whether we track that on our net worth. Here's this, what basically, I just use some sample numbers, but this is what the net worth tracker that I have that's on the website that you can use. And so you see, I break it down into cash and cash equivalents, taxable and Roth. And then I kind of like the pie chart to see, okay, what fraction of is what, you know, in terms of my overall net worth. Give me a quick visual of that. But anybody have any questions here? And like I said, you can add, you know, cars, all that, you know, stuff. But to me, this gives me the overall stuff that I really want to know. And then on mine, if you see, I mentioned, like if you look here, you know, I've got assets, liabilities, and then total net worth. But then below that, I've broken down, I get rid of the house. And it would be, and in that case, it would also be a car, all those other, you know, other things, where this is my liquid assets. That's what I consider financial independence, you know, financial freedom assets. Your 401ks, your brokerage, your, you know, all the real money that you have saved and invested. Okay. This is net worth. They've updated income, but not the net worth, which hasn't, I'm sure, changed much at all, you know, over a year. But these are numbers. I with that top 1%, it makes everything seems kind of ridiculous to even look at. So, but here's the numbers of net worth based on different age groups. And I highlighted again the top 90%, or the, you know, the 90th percentile, which is they're at, like, you know, if you can be at the top 10%, you know, great. Okay. And then this is the same thing without the top 1%. So it's much easier to kind of see, you know, the light blue is the 90th percentile, and the dark blue is the median, which are the numbers that I highlighted. Okay. And then I broke it down so people can see a little bit for your different age groups, you know, made easier to see 18 to 20, you know, here's to age 39. And then just a table of it. And then here's 40 to 69. Those numbers as well. Like I said, the average age, you know, we did that for when people actually become a millionaire, for the people that showed up late, is 49. I think that'll be coming sooner with inflation and salaries finally going up, but and a million not being quite what a million used to be, but it's still going to be relatively close. It's the whole point of that is it's diligent. It takes time. You know, there's not going to be a pot of gold or some lucky strike. It's just consistent, regular investing. Time in the market is what wins, and you'll be patient and keep with it, and you'll become a millionaire. Okay, so here's now talking about, okay, where should you be at? And these are formulas I like that are from the Millionaire Next Door. That was like the first money book I read, I think, back years ago. And they have another, you know, like his daughter finished another book when he unfortunately passed away. But he has two different formulas, kind of the average accumulator of wealth, meaning, okay, it's pretty good, and then a prodigious accumulator, which is double that, which I'll go into it. But this example, and what I like, actually, the Money Guy show, it's a podcast, a good podcast. When people are under 40, they're like, hey, that's kind of not fair, that formula, because people have just gotten out of college or whatever. They're just getting in the workforce. And so that what they do is take on the denominator, how many years until 40. So add that in. So it makes it, you know, makes it more reasonable for people as they're just getting started. And I like that idea. So that's what I've used here. And so in the example, age 30, 75, you know, K income, net worth, for an average accumulator wealth, 30 times 75 divided by 10 plus the other 10, which is 10, how many years until 40? So 112K. Next is prodigious cumulative wealth. And this is what they're kind of recommending, is double that. Essentially it's, age times income times 20%, which, you know, uh, I like this is a good question. Even in the CFP studies, they talk about like 12% savings rate or 15%, and I like it up more like 25. And what I don't like is everybody talks about since you're ready by full retirement age, like 67, or like Money Guy shows it says till 65. But does everybody want to work? Do you want to work? Do you want to have to work that long? I don't. And so, so I like a larger, get there sooner. And guess what percentage of people are forced to retire? They don't choose to, whether it's health or family or or they don't, they get laid off. What percentage do you think of people do not get forced in retirement rather than choosing when they retire? There's no wrong answer. I'm just still, curious what you think. 25%. Good. Anybody else? It's actually 40%. Or that's why I think, the sooner you can be ready, the better. Granted, don't be total frugal. We'll get into die with zero as well. But 40% of people are forced into retirement. So that's scary. Okay. And now I'm going to go into so we're going to go into different ages and median medium income, average and prodigious cumulative wealth for different ages, and the 9th percentile, using these couple of formulas. So before we go, who has some people have to have some questions about this? Anything? Okay. Okay, so this is once again, the 2024 numbers for, isn't that crazy how the median income does not change for 35 to 45 to 55 to 60? Like, I was like, wow, $50 difference from 35 to 55 on the median income. And I think that kind of goes into the fact of college. Like we said, college earners, they consistently make more money and get better raises. And that's why probably 90% are millionaires. They keep going up. That's why the larger percentages, look at the 90%, that keeps going up each year as they get older, but the median doesn't change. So, okay, but here we'll go. Okay, for a 25-year-old, median incomes 40K. The actual median net worth is about 21K. And these on the left, that's average, accumulate AAW, average cumulative wealth, and prodigious accumulative wealth. The right side, each one of these is going to be a 90th percentile. And what you'll see, take a note after this one, on the medians, the average median net worth are mostly typically near the average accumulative wealth, whereas the 90th percentile tends to be more prodigious accumulative wealth. It's kind of interesting to see. So, okay, here's a 30-year-old. So median income of 50K, 90th percentile is 123K. So 150K up to almost 400K that'd be good for a 30-year-old. 35-year-old, median income is 60K. The 90th percentile is 155K. So that starts shooting up, getting your $750,000. A 40-year-old, that median income went up a whole dollar. Actually, so on the 40s, they have all the numbers for 25, 35, 45, 55, 65. So what I did was just averaged between the 45, the 35 and 45 to get the 40. That's where I came up with those numbers. But I figured that way I wanted to cover a different age range, and that's about the same. Those are pretty linear in general. So, but 40-year-old, prodigious would be 480K at median. You're already a millionaire for the top 90 percentile. 45-year-old, median income went up a whole dollar too. But 90th percentile, 165K, and you're almost worth, prodigious 101.5 million. 50-year-old. And 55-year-old. Now we're looking at, for median income, almost getting near 700K. 90th percentile, almost about 2 million. And then for a 60-year-old, notice the median income's going down now, actually, which is interesting. It wasn't the year before. But the 90th percentile still going up over 2 million. And then 65-year-old median income still dropping again. So that assumes 750, 50K versus 2.4K, 2.4 million for the 90th percentile. Okay. So when you're looking at going through like financial planning thumb rules, they say, hey, here's how much invested assets you should have, a good thumb rules versus your salary, or some ratio based on different ages. So as you're just starting out, just a fifth of what your salary is what they think of invested assets, and that means that's liquid, not home. That this is just saving and investing. And these numbers, and you see as you get up to closer to 65, retirement age, yeah, it makes sense. That's 16 to 20. And we talk about financial independence and the 4% rule, which is the safe withdrawal rate. That's equivalent to 25 times your expenses. This is your actual salary, which is really what matters overall in your nest egg, is how much you spend, not how much you make. And because that's when you determine when you're actually financially free. I'll go on the next one. So this is interesting. So Fidelity does these savings factors, and Money Guys show, actually they did say, hey, we don't agree, and they bumped it way up. I think they almost bump it maybe too high, in my opinion. But I get what they're saying. But here's the assumptions they're making on this is, they're using an equity glide path, meaning you're going from, as you're young, nearly all equities, most target funds are typically 90% equity, 10% bonds to start, and then they shift over to mostly bonds near retirement, near the target date, so that you're more protected. I think they tend to go a little too quickly, too conservative, and you risk losing that last doubling, which is the most important doubling, from 1 million to 2 million, or 2 million to 4 million. But 15% savings rate, and they do 1.5 constant real growth. So that's above like inflation. Retirement age at 65, and planning horizon to age 93. So, and that's where, and they even said, if you're going to retire earlier, you should have at least like 12 times your annual salary. But like I said, to me, it's really, you have to understand your expenses, because that's what matters, ultimately. And then I just here's a few examples of, different ages and salaries, and what, would be an average accumulator of wealth and versus a prodigious accumulator of wealth. Okay. Any questions here? Anybody else want numbers to throw out? Happy to calculate. Okay, now, so what if you're ahead? Like, okay, great. But the much of the FIRE movement, it's changing now. The FIRE movement's financial independence, retire early. It was super frugality early on. Now it's not so much that, which is good, because the book Die with Zero, I think everybody should read. I'm a believer in obviously saving and investing to secure a good retirement, and when you can retire on your terms, not when you're forced to retire, like 40% of the people. But you have to live, and life is about experiences. And so if you're saving for a rainy day that might not come, that's not right either. And so, this book, I think, does a great job of giving that perspective, about the importance, and so many things are, so many experiences are actually time restricted. Like I use the example of Machu Picchu. I won't be able to do that, hike all that when I'm 85. So you have to do that young, and similar with a lot of other things. So I don't know if you guys see, there's a good meme of people, like you see them in a Venice cruise, and they're like sleeping on the boat because they're old and they can't even enjoy the vacation that they finally are spending on. Okay, any questions there? But yeah, the book Die with Zero by Bill Perkins is definitely highly recommended. And then if you're behind the curve, this is where it gets people. The big thing is, don't go get riskier. That's not the effective. That might put you in a worse place as you. Yeah, and I saw this in the military a lot. People, it was like the Chiefs quarters. They read one book on investing, and suddenly they were smarter than Warren Buffett, and they're gonna, and I'm like, it's just it's scary, and it doesn't work in general. So, and guess what percentage of day traders are successful? Yep, less than 1%. So not, it's just not. That's not the way to do it. That are stock tips from Lance Corporals. Yeah, exactly. But here's, so people talk about the latte effect, like, and yeah, spending money every day on Starbucks is kind of, but if that's what people really love, okay, that's not really the big changer though. The big thing is, like, the big three are food, transportation, and housing. And so if that's where you're gonna make the biggest change, if you want to need to start saving and investing more. But the other thing, like the ugly one these days, is subscriptions. Everything's a damn subscription. So you got to check every 6 months. Go and look at your subscriptions. I remember Christian, he first Financial Fitness Friday we went to. We talked about this, and he went and saved $120 a month. That realizing he hadn't canceled all these things that he's just getting charged for. Those $10-15 a shot, it all adds up. And then if you to try to reduce spending, use cash. Have you guys ever noticed, like, if you go to buy something, if you're using a credit card or even a debit card, it's just ching, it's so easy. But if you have to pull cash out of your wallet, holy crap, it's like so psychologically more difficult. Like, is that really worth all that? I mean, it's really worth trying it for a month. Just go all cash, and I bet you'd spend a hell of a lot less. And then I like the 72-hour rule for purchases. Of course, Amazon has maximized making it easy as possible for you to buy. One click, no, hold off for 72 hours. If you still really need it in 72 hours, then okay, then go consider it. But otherwise, don't worry about it. But the idea is, like I said, don't go riskier, don't panic. It's just time to get more intentional. And the difference, just striking the right balance between you only live once and being a miser. Okay, now let's go. Here's some quick thumb rules. I used some numbers from before, but I think it's probably good because it takes people a while to get to max out their 401k. But some assumptions, how much your 401k, TSP could be worth and based on contributing 20.5k for 30 years. And I did that on most paychecks anymore outside of the military. They're biweekly typically, every 2 weeks. And so using a 8% rate of return, which I think is a realistic rate of return for long term, you'll have 2.56 million. And then I put 3%. I use that. Interest rates have finally went up, so fixed income's worth a little more, but 3 or 4%. But you'd still, this is just making your thing much more conservative, which actually it'd probably be 5 or 6%. But I was going real conservative. But it shows just how much it's growing. Nearly 3.5 million. The problem is, it's all in tax deferred, RMDs are going to come and destroy you tax wise. So it's important to know where you're at, and then do Roth conversions or something during the gap years. The gap years being the time from when you retire until you actually have to pay RMDs, which I think everybody in here, it'll be 75. They've fortunately been pushing that RMD, required minimum distribution date, out later. And then quickly go into how much do you need to retire? I know we kind of talked about it, but there's do you need a specific number? Like Joe, like Suze Orman was like, oh, you could need 10 million. Susie Orman, shut up. You don't, everybody's different. She wants everybody to work forever. And I'm like, it just drives me crazy. And she's so popular. It's like, I think she's given some ugly advice in many situations. But really, now we'll go to talk about it. We talked about it's about the safe withdrawal rate. Financial freedom is having enough wealth that your living expenses for the rest of your life are covered without having to be employed or dependent on others. So your money is making enough to last forever. And when you know you're there, well, they've done multiple studies. Bill Bangan did it first, and he just used like a S&P 50%, like S&P 500, 50% treasury bills, not very diversified. I mean, there's much better ways to have a diversified account, but he did it, and there was another Trinity study that backed it up as well. And they showed that, they were using typically 30 years to see, because people were retiring at 65, say live to 95, how much, do you need to not run out of money? They said 96% of the time you didn't run out of money. And actually, the vast majority of the time, your principal did not go down, or about 50% of the time it actually went up. I think I was trying to see some up to as much as 4 times the amount. So I don't think of that as a thumb rule. Like, it's a good thumb rule to see where you're at and how close you are. The 25 times your expenses, which is obviously the inverse of the 4% rule. So if you have, I didn't really explain that well. If you have $1 million, 4% of that is 40,000. So if you had only annual expenses of $40,000 a year, you could spend that much and then adjust for inflation each year and never run out of money. It's a good thumb rule to see where you're at. And so it's based on your expenses. The inverse of that 4% is 25 times. So 40,000 times 25 is $1 million. Shows you when you're close. The earlier you retire, you probably want a little bit higher number than that. And then if you've got a pension, you subtract that out of your annual expenses, and it shows how much your pension's really worth and what nest egg you really need to do. Okay. Does anybody know what the rule of 72 is? Dustin, Chanson, you guys should be able to. I know you guys know. So the rule of 72 is what the rate of return. If you divide the average rate of return that you're making on your investments into 72, that without contributing any more money, that's how long it's going to take to double. And so if your rate of return is 8%, 8 into 72, that's 9 years. So in 9 years, your money would double without even contributing anymore. So the higher rate of return, obviously, the faster you double. And that's one of the things that I caution people about, going too conservative too early, because if you drop your rate of return down to 4%, then that's going to take a long time. You're going to miss that last doubling, which is the most important doubling. Whether you're going from 1 million to 2 million, 2 million to 4 million, 4 million to 8 million, whatever, like that's the one you really want. So, okay. We actually finished on time. That's unusual for me. Any questions? No questions, really? Okay. Well, and here's
one
other.
for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So one of the slides you showed, it was in regards to savings. Reduce your food, your living expenses,
Yeah.
and yeah, transportation. So, being in California, uh, the housing is going to be
It's
tough to
terrible.
reduce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as an alternative, what would you recommend for those who maybe can't move
So,
to another state?
and the housing's tough. So the I mean, for one, and this is for say younger people, I always had a roommate when I was young. Like and it saved, when I was renting, it saved a lot of money by having other people, you know, sharing that amount, or even renting a room out, if you can have that. Granted, for married couples, et cetera, that's doesn't make sense in general, but transportation is the other one, and that's the cost of your car, you know, um, which too many people spend way too much money on a car. And so that's where you could save. There's a great Money Guy show has a great rule of thumb, that 23-8 rule on a car. So put 20% down, um, pay it off in 3 years, because like we said, it's depreciating asset. And no, your total cost of all, if household costs of auto payments should be less than 8% of your gross income, and it should be less than what you're investing per month. So I like that thumb rule that they came up with. It's a good idea about a car, how much to spend. And then food, that much of that goes into eating out. Then is where you can save there. Does that make sense? I know, Chance, that's hard with housing here. I mean, I get it, but
Yeah, I
that
mean,
help.
it's I'm good on those, except
Yeah,
the housing is
yeah,
just the only way to avoid that is to move to,
I know.
like, I can move back to Texas, but you know, that's
I know. Yeah, exactly. So, but let's see. Oh, I was just thinking, and there's several new people here. I have some. I still need to build some more, but I lined those out. We've already done those. But anybody have specific topics? Like I, I almost think one of the early ones that I do is retirement investing vehicles. Talking about all the different ways to save for retirement, is a good one that kind of covers all the different things and what people should do. Yep.
So I
Yes.
will say it's not a new thing, but the healthcare options is absolutely something where if you haven't done that yet, I'd love to participate in that in the future since I've got a
Okay.
transition coming up. It's one of those things that I know nothing about.
Yep. Yep. Okay. And by the way, for Viasat, we're in the open window right now, and they've unbundled everything. So previously, it was all medical, dental, vision all together. And if you're retired military, you've got TRICARE, but you don't have dental and vision. And so um, before you either bought the whole thing, which Viasat's really a good deal because you get all these, you know, it's relatively cheap if you do the Elevate, um, points, and you can save as a couple, you can save $82 or $84, per paycheck on that, which is significant. But now you can just get dental and vision if you just want to keep TRICARE, and have a cheaper method of having those funds than going to the federal. There's a federal way that you can get that, Garrett. Um, that's relatively affordable, but it's not. Most companies have better actually options than that. And then those are different core topics. Here's other ones, like that's how I was, but retirement investing vehicles. That's one where we go into all the different types, and then traditional versus Roth and lifetime tax management. Maybe I'll add those for the next couple of them as I'm building out some additional ones, like let's see, planning and then investing for children and that kind of stuff. So any other, and feel free to let me, if you guys have topics you want to cover, let me know. But any questions or thoughts?
maybe do one on home buying.
Yeah,
If you,
yeah, exactly. And actually, I was gonna tag with my broker that I used. He's and we could I think do that together. he's a real expert on mortgage interest rates and all that kind of stuff, and how it fluctuates. But that's an important one. Had that down. Thanks, Jansen. Anything else? Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
Sorry, I thought of
Yeah.
a quick question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the FIRE movement was de-emphasizing being miserly.
Yeah.
Does that imply that people are just taking it slower on the road to retirement, or are they compensating?
You know what? I'd say it's a couple of things. One, they're not like I think it was Radical. I don't know. There's a podcast, Radical something, and this guy had like an 85% savings rate or something, like totally way frugal, and not doing anything just to get to this point. But so, and actually, what they're doing is going, hey, people are like, and it probably has taken a little bit longer, but what they're realizing is most people that retire this earlier, they still get some source of income, whether it's starting a side gig, doing their passion project, so that's kind of what it's been at. The people that tend to be still a little more frugal are ones that freaking hate their job, and so they're just dying to get out of it, which is kind of that's unfortunate. Hopefully, but
thanks. That makes sense. It sounds like if people don't need to be so miserly, they are de-emphasizing.
Yeah. But even Choose FI, because he was really frugal, and I remember I stopped listening to them, just listening to other things, but they were they've gotten away from that super frugality too, and much more about being wise, and and it's all about, I guess, more about living by your values, like spending, spend money on things that matter, but curb where it doesn't, it's not important to you. Like for me, my car's 13 years old. It's a way to get from A to B. It's not, it's not what matters to me at all. So I like to minimize my costs there, and spend it elsewhere, save so that I can retire early, that kind of thing. Sense?
Thank you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What do you think about high yield savings account? Do you have them?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and so yes, and I use Ally, because they have buckets. So like you could put vacation fund, all these different, like car maintenance fund, all the different things, present, like gifts, and it's all in one account, but you can have it, so whenever you save money, you can have it split out every month going to these different buckets, and it's about 4%. So that I do like. You get about the same with a money market account in a brokerage. Maybe you probably get a little bit higher in a brokerage account, but yeah, I have a high yield savings. That's where I keep emergency fund and those some other other just things I want liquidity on. And that's actually where, go ahead.
So the problem I'm having is that I've been doing some search, and I see all these companies are trying to offer me high yield savings, right?
Yeah, don't go for the gimmicks.
I just don't know which company or which is a good place to invest in, or put my account in.
And I wouldn't call it investing. That's savings.
Yeah,
when
savings.
I think so,
that's
but that's why I like Ally. There's Goldman Sachs has one. I'm trying to think the name of it offhand. There's a couple of that. They're all the well-known ones that are reputable are about the same. So don't go scrambling for something that's 0.1% higher, but get it out of the brick and mortar banks that are 0.nothing%, where these high yield savings, you at least get about 4% right now. I like Ally because it's got the buckets, and it keeps up with the good interest rates, as the others. Other ones, Dustin, they're going to send you like, oh, we'll give you 10%, for the first $1,000 or something. It's these gimmicks to try to get you in there, and then you just stay there. That's why I like. That's just why I go with Ally. I should probably talk to them about getting some money. Just kidding.
I'll look up. I'll look it up. Ally is A-L-I.
ALLY, like your ally, in like we've lost all of our allies. Wait.
L-Y. Okay.
Yep. And that's one I like, just like I said, because you can just have all of these different buckets.
Okay.
So,
I'll look it up.
cool. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, that's true too. Some aren't make sure they're FDIC insured as well. So, okay. Great. Well, now we went 10 minutes over. Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll end this. Thanks for attending, and I'll post these, probably tomorrow. It's got the video and the slides on the website. So, okay. Thanks everyone. Have a great rest of the day, weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks.
so much, Alan.
Thank you.